Alright, so listen up. Bluelock's New Generation 11 are international youth players handpicked by FIFA as the future of football, and every single one of them has the ability to decide a match with one touch of genius. Up to now, the manga has introduced us to 6 of these monsters, and to start off 2026 with a bang, we're answering one of the most debated questions in the entire Bluelock community. Who is the strongest New Generation 11 player overall? This ranking will take into account both narrative importance and the real on-screen feats, but also keep this in mind. Some of these players play completely different positions, and some have had very limited screen time, so context does matter. No matter what, this list is guaranteed to start arguments, so drop your own ranking in the comments after watching, let me know what you agree or disagree with, and make sure to subscribe if you enjoy variety power scaling content just like this. Now with that out of the way, let's get right into the rankings. Kicking things off in last place is sadly also the only New Generation 11 defender we've seen so far, the ace-eater Don Lorenzo. Lorenzo is an Italian under-20 center back for the Serie A team Ubers, and his entire identity is basically that of a walking anti-striker device, whose job is to drain and absorb value from the most expensive forwards on the pitch. Design-wise, he looks like he crawled straight out of a zombie movie with a tall lengthy frame, purple tinted messy hair, golden grills, and the iconic ace-eater tattoo on his neck. Narratively, Lorenzo was introduced as the defensive core of Mark Snuffy's system, a flexible genius whose football is driven by body abnormality and survival instincts rather than refined technique. I mean, the guy was literally recruited off the street when he was homeless, and the first thing he asked for was grills, so it's no surprise that he plays favorites defensively based on monetary value. If you're expensive, he wants you locked down. This man is literally hatefully pocket watching on the pitch, marking players based on transfer value like he's trying to lifesteal their net worth and add it straight to his own portfolio. And as for on-screen feats, the first thing we ever see out of this man is him casually intercepting a bounce pass meant for Michael Kaiser just outside of the penalty box, a play that should have been a free goal for Bayern Munich. He then proceeds to cook Kunigami and Raichi one-on-one using absurd flexibility and body control that genuinely looks inhuman to say the least. For most of the match, Lorenzo was glued to Kaiser, completely erasing him from the game, and the exact second he switches to target cover Yuki Miya, Kaiser immediately scores a super goal, which is all the proof we need of Lorenzo's defensive impact. When Ubers are on the ball, Lorenzo's libero versatility still shows as he swaps roles with Nico and steps into the midfield to make box-to-box runs, help coordinate attacks, and even put himself into shooting positions. He even tanks a Kaiser impact with his face, which is either the most committed defensive play in the series, or proof that healthcare should be mandatory in the NEL. However, once Isagi and Hiyori truly lock in and start playing off each other, that's when Lorenzo finally starts getting sent to the shops, biting on feints, sliding late, and not really showing us new generation defense in my opinion. To be fair, Yo Hiyori is the impact sub of all time. Overall, Don Lorenzo is ranked last not because he's weak, but because he never once enters the flow state or pushes himself anywhere near his ceiling. So until we see him actually lock in with something to prove in the U20 World Cup with Italy, he's stuck as the lowest ranked new gen overall. Next up, coming in 5th place, is Hugo, a member of France's U20 Golden Generation and the newest introduced New Generation 11 player. Hugo plays as a central midfielder for France, sitting slightly behind Charles Chevalier, and his role is clearly meant to help stabilize an otherwise chaotic and insanely skilled team. Design-wise, Hugo has a very composed and refined look with an athletic build, sharp angular features, and a calm expression that made the community immediately start calling bro the thinker. Narratively though, Hugo is still something of a question mark. He's part of France's stacked Golden Generation, and what stands out immediately is that Julian Loki considers his input and analysis, which tells you that Hugo has real respect in the squad, especially when you look at how Loki treated the other World 5 members during the 3rd selection. Beyond that and calling Isagi unsuitable, the story hasn't really gone out of its way to hype him up too much as an individual player just yet. And as for on-screen feats, Hugo actually makes a very strong first impression. In his first major sequence, he cleanly dribbles past Isagi Yoichi, physically checks Itoshi by planting a hand on his chest to bypass him, then sells a feint pass towards Julian Loki before Charles instead sneakily scores the opening goal against Japan. That single play shows off an already solid foundation with good ball control, physical composure, spatial awareness, and the ability to manipulate defenders without rushing, all things you absolutely need from a central midfielder on a super team like France. So overall, Hugo lands at number 5 because while he's clearly intelligent, composed, and already trusted by France's biggest star, we still haven't seen him demand the spotlight or reveal a true ceiling yet. A lot of people assume he's a talented learner rather than a genius, but what do you all think? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and for now, let's move on to the next one. Coming in at 4th place is Itoshi Sai, Japan's prodigy and easily the most divisive placement on this entire list. Sai is a New Generation 11 midfielder who plays for Real's youth team in Spain, functioning specifically as an offensive midfielder during the Japan U20 match. Design-wise, Sai stands out immediately with his tall frame, reddish hair, and that permanently detached expression that makes it feel like he's already 10 moves ahead and bored by everyone. Narratively, the story goes out of its way to imply implied that the only reason Sai hasn't been promoted to the senior team is because of age restrictions, which quietly places him in the same conversation as monsters like Julian, Loki, and Bunny Iglesias, even if the comparison isn't perfectly clean. What's funny is that this implication was written all the way back in chapter 3, which raises a genuine question. Do you think the author already had the current power hierarchy in mind back then, or did Sai just age into a much bigger field as the series evolved? Sai is very clearly a talented learner, someone who refines his game through elite football IQ, tactical precision, and adaptation rather than natural abnormality. There's also the implication that he might possess metavision. The wording never outright confirms it, but given his spatial awareness and anticipation, it would honestly be more surprising if he didn't. Also, his highly skilled and individually gifted brother itoshi looks at him to be his ultimate goal to surpass, so some would say this places Sai over Kaiser due to the NEL's events, however I personally disagree. His younger brother's words and admiration are not really comparable to, say, the words of the world's best, Noah, or even others like Chris Prince. And as for on-screen feats, Sai dominates bluelock during the Japan U20 match while very clearly holding back. For most of the game, he treats the field like a testing ground, using bluelock as a measuring stick rather than a true opponent, and especially using this match to evaluate his younger brother itoshi. When he finally does lock in for a brief stretch near the end, Sai enters a reflexive first stage flow and completely takes over, controlling the tempo of the game, breaking defensive lines, and deciding the outcome almost single-handedly. Paired with his choice of Shido Ryuze, he finished the game with 1 goal and 2 assists, with his specific strengths being pinpoint passing, surgical shooting accuracy, elite dribbling in tight spaces, and absurd game sense that lets him see plays on both sides of the pitch. His most recent contribution, however, is sitting on a couch in aura farming and claiming that he would have beaten Nigeria 8-0, which is impressive trash talk considering he conveniently skipped the group stage entirely. So Itoshi Sai lands at number 4 not because he lacks ability, but because so much of his placement is still being carried by implication rather than current action. He's undeniably elite, arguably overqualified for most of the players we've seen, but until he actually steps back onto the pitch and proves that he can hold up against this new generation of monsters, he's living dangerously close to becoming the most skilled spectator in bluelock. Now moving up into the top 3, we start off with Michael Kaiser, God's chosen emperor and the ace striker of Bayern Munich's U20 squad. Kaiser of course plays as a forward for Bayern Munich and serves as the team's primary goal scorer and focal point, a role that immediately puts him at odds with Isagi Yoichi the moment the new Eagles League begins. Design-wise, Kaiser is one of the most visually striking players in the entire series, with his tall build, light blonde hair scented by blue streaks, red eyeliner, and the iconic blue rose tattoo that crawls from his neck down to his hand. Story-wise, Kaiser is introduced as Isagi's main rival in the NEL, a talented learner whose entire philosophy revolves around thriving on malice and superiority. Due to his upbringing and obsession with proving himself, Kaiser spends most of the league locked in a petty mental battle with Isagi, actively sabotaging his own growth just to one-up him, if you can even call it that.
How does it feel, Kaiser, to be the clown of my story?
And this right here is where scaling Kaiser usually gets messy, because the Isagi Glazers just cannot stop overscaling our main character while excluding convenient context. Some people genuinely read the entire new Eagles League and just say Isagi over Kaiser as a striker and overall player, which makes no sense when you take into account Bayern Munich's internal dysfunction, Kaiser's fixation on Isagi, and the fact that even Isagi himself openly acknowledges Kaiser is a superior individual player. Even while mentally nerfed, Kaiser is still operating at an absurdly high level, and as for on-screen feats, Kaiser is remarkably consistent throughout the new Eagles League as he scored 1 amazing goal in every single match he played in, took plenty of defensive pressure for his team, and even helped out defensively quite often with his metavision. Once he finally returned to 0 during the PXG match and dropped his obsession with Isagi, we get a glimpse of what Michael Kaiser actually looks like when he's free, scoring a world-class curved goal reminiscent of Roberto Carlos and completely dismantling PXG alongside Isagi to finish the league undefeated. Kaiser is best described as a clinical striker, someone who needs very few chances to score and rarely wastes opportunities once he finds space. His skill set is built around his overwhelming physique, elite positioning, and above all, a deceptively deep shooting bag centered around the Kaiser impact. Rather than being a single move, the Kaiser impact functions as a shooting technique, allowing him to score through power shots, curve shots, and even use it as a passing weapon. On top of that, Kaiser is the only character in the series confirmed to possess both metavision and predator eye, essentially embodying the peak of what a talented learner can achieve. He then follows this up by scoring 3 goals against Costa Rica, with one of them being a hat trick in Germany's opening U20 World Cup match, a clear signal that post-NEL Kaiser is operating on a completely different level. If you know, you know. Individually, Kaiser is still that guy, and once the Kaiser and S duo finally lock in on the international stage, I can easily see him reaching true world-class territory and even pushing beyond it. Now coming in next as our runner-up in second place is Bunny Iglesias, Spain's new generation 11 forward and easily the most mysterious player on this entire list. Bunny plays as a striker for FC Barça, but not their U20 squad, the actual main team, lining up alongside one of the best players in the world, Lavinho. That alone already sets him apart from almost everyone else here. Design-wise, Bunny Bunny has a striking and almost unsettling look, with a tall athletic build, lavender-colored hair, red irises, and scars running along his face, neck, arms, and legs. If Kagamaru fought one bear, this guy fought an entire army of them. Narratively, Bunny is being pampered hard by the story. Despite barely having any screen time, everything surrounding him screams future star. He transferred into FC Barça's main team midway through the season and still managed to score 12 goals as a second striker playing alongside Lavinho. His own club profile even labels him as a rising star who will lead Barcelona into the future, which immediately frames him as an important figure rather than just another talented youth. There's also heavy implication that Bunny had something to do with Itoshi Sai's awful time in Spain, as we see Sai actively hate watching the Barça game and only agreeing to play for U20 Japan if they make it far enough to face Spain so he can get his get back. As for on-screen feats, while limited, they are incredibly loud. Bunny scores a lightning-fast opening goal in a Copa del Rey final match, showing absurd hops and aerial dominance that perfectly matches his name. At 6'3" with an insane vert, flexibility, and shot placement, he can easily terrorize defenders as a target man or thrive as a second striker alongside another elite threat like he's already doing next to Lavinho. So Bunny lands at number 2 not because we've already seen everything he can do, but because the story has placed him extremely high on the new generation hierarchy itself. When a player with barely any screen time is already starting for Barcelona's main squad, scoring consistently, and living rent-free in Itoshi Sai's head, that's not potential anymore. That's a warning. And if this is Bunny before the spotlight really hits him, you might want to start spamming jumps and stretches right now. Now, taking the top spot at number 1 is Julian Loki, of course, France's supernova and the clear apex of the new generation 11. Loki is a forward who plays for Paris Saint-Germain's main team, represents France at the U20 level, and has already been selected for the senior national team too despite being only 17 years old. Although I think in universe, he's just turned 18. Design-wise, Loki is literally just Kylian Mbappe if he was transferred straight into the bluelock universe. From the moment he's introduced during the 3rd selection as part of the World 5, the story makes it clear that Loki exists on a completely different tier. He's not framed as a rival to be surpassed, but as a benchmark, someone Ego personally brings in to measure how far bluelock still has to go. Loki is very clearly a genius thanks to his defining weapon, Godspeed, a natural physical abnormality that simply cannot be taught or replicated. He later returns to the story during the new Egos League not just as a player, but as a master striker and coach to PXG, specifically to mold Charles Chevalier into his personal passer so he can become the world's best. Even Noah implicitly treats Loki as the only new generation 11 player who could realistically threaten him, which is something that no one else on this list can say, not even Kaiser. I mean, Lil Bro was literally getting coached into being a victim. And as for on-screen feats, Loki's resume is disgusting. 3rd selection alone had him casually thrashing Bluelock's best and making a complete mockery of them, but the crazier part is his brief appearance during the PXG match. His first on-screen action is effortlessly snatching the ball off Isagi's first touch, then using his immense speed and long strides to split between Raichi, Hiyori, and Kura-jin like they weren't even set there. Later in the match, Michael Kaiser rips a perfectly accurate Kaiser Impact Magnus off of a free kick, a shot that realistically could have ended the game on the spot. Julian Loki reacts to it after visually recognizing the shot. He sprints to the interception point and launches through the air to stop it, straight up mocking the Kaiser Impact and calling it too slow. In the final moments of his appearance, Loki intercepts a pass between Noah and Kaiser as they break through the midfield, and then goes one-on-one with the world's number 1, Noah himself, managing to hold possession and stand his ground even when Noah gets a full arm wrapped around him, which is basically like living after your name gets written in the death note. So Julian Loki is number 1 because no one else here is playing the same game simply. He's already a main team professional, already an international player, already acknowledged by the very best in the world, and still hasn't even reached his peak. This is not a debate about potential or narrative implication like the rest of them. He's just him. And with that, we wrap up my current ranking of every new generation 11 player. I already know that this list is going to cause arguments, so let me hear it. Who did I overrate, who did I underrate, and who do you think is about to shock us in the U20 World Cup's upcoming matches? Drop your full ranking down in the comments and explain your reasoning as I read all of them, even the unhinged ones. Now if you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it this year, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next. Have an amazing new year, let's make 2026 even brighter, and I'll catch you all on the next one shortly.